Hello, guys. Welcome back to Sports Kabri. Today, I've got with me Adi, and we're nearing the end of the football season. So you know what that means. This is the time where people start or people are well into the conversation of the Ballon d'Or, who should be winning it, who is close, who are the contenders. And after the recent UEFA Nations League semi-finals, there have been a lot of chatter, like there always is. But after the whole Mbappe versus Dembele versus Lamine Yamal conversations have again reignited. So we are going to today discuss what we think and who we think are the contenders, who we think have had the outstanding, brilliant seasons. So yeah, Adi, how do you feel the game went, and who do you think like stood out in that game?
Yeah, bro. Firstly, what happened? I think firstly we can talk about. I think if you're talking about Ballon d'Or, I think we go back to last week UCL. I think we have to touch upon that also because, bro, losing
Right,
or
actually.
winning, to be fair, as a team winning final in a UCL final, I don't think it's happened at least in our generation before. And it was
True.
not even like it was too convincing. Like it was something like a matter of one team overpowering the other team in all form, like attack, defense, midfield, everything. And yeah, bro, that game, Inter standed no chance. And players like, Desire Doué and Dembele stood out a lot. But yeah, I think you need to touch upon that in
Hmm.
terms of, you know, going into the finals. I really thought PSG could win it, but I thought it would be close because the way Inter played, they are very strong defensively. They are a team that, have been playing great football overall this season in the UCL especially. So going into the final, I didn't think it was going to be a final win. I thought it would be like a 2-1, 3-1 win, just edging it. But yeah, like that game, I think if you're only going off that game, you could see why guys like Dembele could be in a shout for the final because he didn't score a goal. He had two assists, but you look at the way he played. I think he was very important that day. Even though
Hmm.
Desiree Doué got two goals and an assist, I still think Dembele was overall the biggest catalyst in that team because first goal, second goal, like it was all him doing a lot of things. Like not the first goal, second goal. I remember the way they countered. It was very much because of him. And overall, I think the way PSG play complements him very well, and the entire attacking unit were pretty good. And again, I think there were a lot of discussion right after the UCL. Like I think Lamine Yamal was asked the question in the interview in terms of, who do you think is the Ballon d'Or winner? And I think he told something along the lines like, he believes that the Ballon d'Or winner should be best in the whole season. But if you want to come to the fact of that's how the people perceive or the media perceives where game on Thursday, Spain versus France. Spain is where Yamal comes from. France is where Dembele is from. You can say it's a pretty huge game, regardless of us thinking, okay, it's just the UEFA nation. I think when you're playing a semi-final in any tournament, it's still huge. And if it's going against two big nations, you can't just say it's just a random nations league. It's still a big league. You can still win a trophy, and you're going to come
Right.
there to win that game. It's not like I'm not going to show up that game. And I think he went on saying like, bring on Thursday, let's see who wins that, and then we'll see how the Ballon d'Or goes and things like that. So I think, yeah, huge statement made by him, and I think Konate also said something right in regards to that. Uh, if you have that, you can tell it. But yeah, I think in that sense, he did show up on Thursday. You can say it like that because on Thursday when Spain played France, uh, Spain won 5-4. You can say, looking at the end score, it's okay. They won by a goal, literally by a goal. But if you look at the entire game, I think Spain dominated at least the first 60 minutes until they went 5-1 up. And after the 5-1, they were a bit defensive and they did a lot of mistakes due to the goals they conceded. But yeah, in that game also, Lamine Yamal had two goals versus like Dembele got hooked off in the 60th minute. So
One was a
can people?
penalty, mind you.
But he won the penalty. So if you look at that game, he won the penalty also. And just not that, the way he played the entire game, I think he was one of the better attackers. Like you look at on the same pitch, there were guys like Mbappe, Dembele, who have been one of those guys you can talk and say, okay, they are a bit of favorites to win. Let's say the UCL. I mean, sorry, the Ballon d'Or, at least the top contenders. So in that sense, bro, like you can say, yeah, like Lamine Yamal still played better than them. Like Dembele came out of the pitch at 60 minutes. He got subbed off. And you look at even
Mm.
Mbappe. I mean, the penalty he got for me was questionable. I don't think that's a penalty. Like I wouldn't really give it as a penalty. But he got the penalty, and overall, even he was poor that game. I think when the substitutions came, like France made a lot of substitutions, and then they got in Barcola, they got in
They got a Ryan
Shelby.
Cherky.
Yeah, and that's when they really came to life. The first half, I don't think their attacking unit was together. I don't know how you look at it, but yeah, for me, I feel like Spain also became defensive because they had a 5-1 lead for sure. But I think that's when
Mm.
they started showing their class. And yeah, I think overall, if it comes down to, like, we'll sit and say, right, like two players, like before we would be like Messi versus Ronaldo, it would come down to a lot of El Clasicos. I don't think that was the deciding factor because a lot of times Messi beat Ronaldo. We saw it, but Ronaldo still ended up winning the Ballon d'Or just because he won the UCL. So yeah, for me, I wouldn't per se say like the Thursday game mattered to win the Ballon d'Or, but I think it can add, bro. Like it can add. Like if you are so called the Ballon d'Or winner, you should be one of the main players for your nation. I've never seen Messi or Ronaldo get subbed off at 60th minute, for example. And yeah, I think that matters. Like I don't think you can just take that off.
I
So
mean,
how do you look at it?
even if you're considering this season's El Clasico results, I don't think the contenders will be very, at least one of the contenders won't be satisfied because Barca got the better of Real Madrid on what, 6, 7 occasions this season. So I don't think
Yeah,
Real Madrid will be particularly looking at the El Clasico to decide who the Ballon d'Or winner is. And yeah, Konate's statements were Ousmane Dembele has been exceptional during the season. Like you talk to me a lot about Mbappe and Yamal, but nobody has mentioned Mbappe. And countering Lamine Yamal's comments about if you want it to be decided on Thursday, yeah, we'll be there. And Konate replied like it's not going to be decided on Thursday, which I feel is a fair judgment. Like it's not. Of course, I mean I don't think Lamine Yamal meant it in that context as well that it should be decided on Thursday. He was rather like giving a reply that yeah it has to be based on the entire season, but if it does come to that I will always be there. I feel Yamal for a 17-year-old dude, the confidence that he shows to be like, yeah, if you want to show up, I will be there, and to back it up with performance after performance is just mental, dude. Like I've not seen anything like it. Even I don't remember watching Messi play as well, but at 17, but like the clips I watch of Messi at 17, 18, 19 is not even the maturity that Yamal shows is just too good. It's like a man playing. Like it's like an experienced, seasoned veteran, a 30-year-old playing. Like when he has to speed up the game and he has to dictate the tempo and everything. And what I feel interesting is all up to this point, like even we've discussed on one of the other podcasts before this, that Rafinha was a serious contender, and suddenly now his name has dipped. But I want to bring up the fact that he has just been declared La Liga's player of the season. But all of a sudden, okay, like Brazil as a nation have been very underperforming for a while now. So I don't think, I mean, it's on him alone or on the organization. That's an entirely different conversation. But all of a sudden, now that the UEFA, the Champions League has been decided, the UEFA Nations League is coming to its close. I feel players like him who have had a brilliant season. Like for me, I feel Rafinha and Yamal were the ones who were instrumental for Barcelona this season, and the numbers don't lie. Like Rafinha has put up some crazy numbers, but all of a
yeah.
sudden his name has gone under the radar. So I feel if anything more than Mbappe, I feel it should be between these three. Like Dembele, of course, has his own merits, has his reasons. Lamine Yamal, of course, the like you take out the numbers, you just watch him with your eye test. He checks every box when it comes to the eye test, and then you have Rafinha captaining Barcelona for a lot of this season, putting up captaincy worthy performances, carrying the teams. Like it's for me, it's tough to choose between these three.
Bro, I have a different point of view in terms of the winner, but just for the fact of, these three we're talking, if I just put the stats out, like Rafinha has the best, goals and assists because he's had 34 goals this season overall, and he has 25 assists, bro. Like 25 assists is a bit like too much. I feel like this is something like Messi would be doing in his normal Ballon d'Or year. Like if I just have to put numbers wise, not context of the way they play or who they play, etc. It's just numbers. He has again 34 goals, 25 assists, and the crazy part is it's 13 goals in the Champions League and 9 assists. Like, doing that in 14 games, I think it's like
That's
almost a goal and
immense.
assist per game. Like, that's pretty crazy to say. Like, if you have to look at it. And then again, Dembele has the better second best stats. Again, 33 goals, 15 assists. But to be fair, in the Champions League, if you want to use that as an indicator, he has 8 goals, 6 assists. And Yamal right now is his the worst stats in terms of whatever it is. 18 goals, he still has 25 assists, and I that is a bit a lot. But in the Champions League, it's 5 goals and 4 assists, right? So for all the plaudits or like all the hype Yamal's gotten, like compared with these three, this is the bit of the worst stats I could say. But when you look at each game, each player's game of play, I think for me personally, I think like Yamal or Dembele is just a bit more higher in terms of the caliber of the talent plus the way they play compared to Rafinha. I feel like it's unfair to do that because the roles they play is different from what Rafinha gets to play on the pitch. I think Dembele is a very free role. I think he has
Hmm.
the entire pitch ahead of him, the entire final third for himself. Like he can go anywhere
Right.
he wants, left, right, center, anywhere. And he doesn't really have any defensive responsibilities compared to others. With Yamal, I think it's also same. Like you look at him the way he plays, it's more he just stays up on the right hand side a lot. And what I've seen from Yamal this season, I feel like he depends a lot of on his football based on like uh Kunde. Like when I look
Hmm.
at the way Barca play, I
Yeah.
think if Kunde is there, I think Yamal plays better, like complements him better. But to be fair, in the end of the season when Kunde was not there, like he was still able to play well. But I do remember in the beginning of the season and the mid season, like a certain games when Kunde was not playing, I could see Yamal a bit just a bit more struggling than he used to play, and I could see him struggle. Like if you're looking at the entire season, and yeah, but for Rafinha, for me, I think overall, I wouldn't say looking at as high. Like if you take out the numbers and you look at these three players, I wouldn't say. I don't think anyone would say Rafinha is the best player per se. Like just the way everyone plays, right? But then when you add the goals and assists, I think you can't ignore that, bro. Like 25 assists and like 34 goals, like it's just too much to like ignore it. Like I don't think even guys like Haaland, Salah, who were there this season, have the same numbers. Like, look at Salah in the UCL, 3 goals. Like that's barely anything. Like I have midfielders who scored more goals than Salah this season. So I think a lot of things matter. And bro, for me, it's I feel like one more question before we go. Like, do you think, as Yaman said, do you think winning a UEFA Nations League, or do you think the game on Thursday and coming to today is the finals? Like, it's going to be Spain versus Portugal. Do you think if Spain win, does that put a factor on, does that matter to say, yeah, you can use this as an indicator for someone to win the Ballon? Because at the end of the day, it's a trophy. But if we have to be real, that that trophy is only made by UEFA, like UEFA. Like you look at Copa America, you look at South America, they don't have something like a UEFA Nations League. Like
Yeah.
you can't just say Yamal won a UEFA Nations League, but Brazil didn't do much, so can he win it? So would you say like winning the Nations League has a indicator, or like does it push you towards a Ballon d'Or push? What do you think?
I mean, see, yeah, I think we've discussed this like before also, that where exactly does the UEFA Nations League stand? And for me, I'm a bit confused about its importance, about its relevance even today. Like maybe 10 years down the lane, 20 years down the lane, the narrative might change. But as of now, it is still a very recent tournament. It is coming like, yeah, like the games are being played in the middle of the season rather than having an isolated tournament. For me, that itself dilutes the value. Like it's almost being played instead of games where, like international friendlies should be played.
Bro,
So,
but to be fair,
uh,
this conversation we've had before, do you rather have a game like Spain versus Portugal or Spain versus France, how we saw, or like a Spain versus San Marino where you're going to win 8 and 9? And I think, for me personally, I think I would rather watch a UEFA Nations League in international break than just a random friendly where you're not playing high level football.
see, I would rather have a friendly or a group of friendlies where the so-called top seeded teams play each other rather than.
Bro, but when you're playing a friendly, you're not going to put your best, right? You know that. Like, it's a friendly, like, a lot of players will miss. You can also just pull out of this thing. But I think UEFA Nation all League like has like a lot of contingency in the way you place and seeded in your World Cup qualifiers. I think that matters, and I think
Right.
that's one of the reasons why people take this seriously.
See, for me, I mean, at least when I was watching the games, like after your 50th, 60th minutes, I could see the players getting knackered. I mean, now you can say that, okay, like this, they're just coming off of the season. Like, if this was a World Cup year, this is going to be the same thing. The season's going to end, maybe a 2-3 weeks camp, and then the World Cup starts. But at least they would get that 3 weeks. At least they would get that 1 month somewhere in between. But this happening, like Champions League final happened, and then the players immediately, they didn't go for a break. They immediately went to their camps. The weekend later, they're having their UEFA Nations League game. So I could visibly see the players were knackered, like their energy levels dropping. Not like it's not even about pressing. Like when you can see the body language of some like of the players, you know that okay, they're exhausted. They don't have it. They're running on less fuel. So if that is the case, I feel like a friendly where okay, like there is no restriction on the subs. You can make if you want, you can field another team in the first half. I feel that gives a little bit more flexibility. And coming back to whether it should decide the Ballon d'Or winner, I feel how the media is gonna spin things. They are gonna try and create a narrative for sure, because at the end of the day, like you mentioned, it is rightfully a UEFA tournament. No matter how recent it is a UEFA competition. And when you look at the teams, when you look at the lineups that the nations are fielding, they're all probably their strongest minus one or two players. So at the end of the day, you can say that okay, it's a recent tournament, but the best of the best are playing. So I can see why they would also like the media or the ones who are voting for the Ballon d'Or would consider it. But for me, at least as of yet, it is a rather recent tournament, and like it is an unfair advantage for the European nations, for the European players, because what is the equivalent for a South American player? Like what is like I don't know, a Gold Cup maybe where like all these Panama and all these like the Gold Coast countries play, like because for me that is an unfair advantage. What do these guys have? What does Rafinha have to play for? Like I'm sure if like yeah, like if a Copa America happened, of course they haven't performed well, but they go into every Copa America as one of their top three or top two teams. So they always stand a decent chance, and this is what I've always felt that like Brazil's biggest enemies are usually themselves or the way they play. So like again, I feel if there was another opportunity for these South American teams, then it would be a little bit more fair. But as of now, it is just unfair that these European players are getting this extra tournament to prove themselves.
Bro, for me, I would say one thing though, like the thing with if you want to add, like I think it is important to add a bit of context. So like, okay, if the player is playing well in club level, is he able to do the same to an extent on the national level, or like if you're playing international level? Sorry, are you able to do that the same thing for your national team? I think overall, the thing is with Rafinha, okay, he doesn't have games like the so-called UEFA Nations League there, but they do have important games like World Cup qualifiers, which you can't just take it lightly. You still have to go there and win it because that's the only way you can play the World Cup, and it is what it is. You have to take it seriously. And even in games like that for Brazil, I think overall he hasn't been the greatest to be like, yeah, this guy is going to South America. He's playing at the end of the day, they do play a bit lesser quality compared to Europe. You have to look at that, objectively. And like I remember literally last month, right? It was when Brazil played Argentina. He came out saying a lot of things like, I forgot the statements, but he basically said, Brazil is the best. Like they'll see basically what Yama said. They'll see us on Thursday, Wednesday, whenever we come. We'll show what it is. And you know how the game went. They lost
Yeah.
4-1, and they were all horrible. Like I can't sit and say, yeah, Rafinha played well, and 4-1 losing against a team when you make statements like that, it matters. Because like I don't want to compare, but if someone like Messi made that statement, I don't think he would. But if he did make that statement, he would show up on that day. I would bet on it for him to show up on that day. He wouldn't just sit there, tell a statement and not show up on the day when you're having to play that game. But like, I feel like these things matter because when you're playing in South America, like playing against teams like Argentina, and if you show up, it does matter a lot. Like if that game went the other way around, if like Rafinha scored a hat trick, or let's say they won 4-1 and he scored, or if he's involved in that game, I think you can use the international games as a another indicator. Okay, see, he's doing it with Barca. He's also done it with Brazil. I think that would matter because, bro, at the end of the day, if you're playing well for Brazil and if you're the talisman of Brazil, I think it holds a lot in footballing. Like this thing, we've seen previously, like guys like Pele. Like we've not seen Pele, but like it was a big thing. Like leading Brazil, like Neymar at a point of his time, he was the best player. And like if you are carrying Brazil, it shows so much in that World Cup in 2010, 2014. Sorry,
2014.
even guys like Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, they were all like huge players for Brazil. It was not like they were played well for Real Madrid, Barca, and they were not doing the same for Brazil. They were winning the World Cup.
Right.
They were dominating international football, and that pushed them also for the Ballon d'Or push or whatever it is. But
Right.
that's the thing. I feel like with Yamal, okay, you look at last year, they won the Euros, and I think I wouldn't say Yamal was the only player or the real reason why Spain won last year, but you can sit and say he did perform in the Euros. It was something like that's where he made his mark in football, and that's the thing, bro. I think these things matter. Like if you're not if it's not like a UEFA Nations League, fair enough. But why not able to do that against your Colombias, Argentinas, Chilis in your own continent? You have to be able to perform there. And I don't think it's not only with. I think we had the same discussion with Vinicius last year. Like I don't think he did the same thing with the national team. They had a poor Copa America. I think even Rafinha didn't have a great Copa America, even though it was last season. And this season also, I don't think he played yesterday. Whenever like Brazil played, I
Mm.
think Ecuador, if I'm not wrong. Rafinha was not in the squad. I think these games matter. And bro, I don't know. Like, can you sit and say like Rafinha has been the greatest player for Brazil to be like, okay, yeah, this guy's performing both club level and country level to say like, even though they don't have a UEFA Nations League, can you sit and say, yeah, this guy's playing for Brazil like the way we've seen before?
Yeah. Yeah. I was saying. Yeah. I mean, it does make sense. It does make sense that, like, just one. Yeah. Like, if you want to give it, like, they have the chance. Ultimately, they do have the chance, and
Bro,
it
like,
just.
have you seen? Sorry to interrupt, but have you seen like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
comments of like Brazilian fans on the Brazil national team right now in terms of how
Bro,
they
I feel they are just
value?
very entitled. Like, they have been spoiled
Bro, but
beyond a
no,
point.
but to be fair, it is like I think it's normal for every fan. If you're conditioned to guys like Neymar, Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, the talents you produce, and now look at the players they're producing, and not even that, like, bro, you have Vinicius. Like, you can't sit and say I'm the greatest player, this, that. And when it comes to the national team, bro, they're not able to
Yeah,
beat like
I saw some stats saying out of the previous 41 games he's played, he's blanked in 37 or 35. That is a
yeah, I
shocking
mean,
number.
and that's with everyone. Like even
Yeah,
Rafinha's not the greatest. The other attackers are also not the greatest. Like even Rodrigo doesn't perform well, and
Rodrigo,
after that,
Endrick.
you don't have anyone there. And you look at the way someone like Spain would speak about their players. I don't think they're going to sit and talk about like Yamal the way it is, and I don't think even France will talk about Dembele or Mbappe like that. So
Mbappe like that. Mm.
yeah, I think that matters
Yep,
also.
yep, yep. That's true. That's true. But my next question was gonna be: we've been so spoiled by the likes of your Messis and Ronaldos that the seasons where they won the Ballon d'Ors, maybe except one or two, you can always say that they had the numbers. But even in the clutch moments, even when it mattered for their respective teams, they always showed up. They always showed up, and they put it beyond a doubt that, okay, this is why I'm getting it. Whether be it the Ronaldo scoring against Bayern in Allianz, or Messi turning up every here and there. Yeah, of course, there
If
will be
VAR was there,
controversies.
Rishi, if VAR
Yeah,
was there,
there
you
will be
wouldn't have this
controversies, but
conversation.
but yeah, at the end of the day, they showed up. So right now, I feel it has gotten to a stage where Rafinha is putting up what, 33 goals, 25 assists. Yet we are like, okay, now if we were to isolate these numbers from the player that he is, maybe if he had a little bit more flair, if he had a little bit more finesse to his game and was not very, I feel he is one of those Brazilian players who doesn't seem that Brazilian. He's very industrious, works hard, runs his lungs off. But somebody without that creative flair like your Neymar's, like if he had that, if he was a little bit more aesthetic, would it have pushed his case? Or because again, he's scoring again in almost all of Barca's big games, whether it be El Clasicos this season, even against Inter, he scored in the Champions League. So he is doing everything. But when it comes to that, still people like when it. But on the other hand, your Dembele's and Lamine Yamal's both left footers. Dembele very aesthetic with
Even
both his
Rafinha is a
feet.
left footer, Rishi.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean in
Rafinha
the
was a left
yeah,
footer.
that's true. But what I mean to say is both like Dembele can use his right and left. He's a little bit. He's not a little bit, much more smoother. A little like very aesthetic. Lamine Yamal always drifts. Like he's already having comparisons with Messi, but he's having comparisons with Neymar also when it comes to the aesthetics, when it comes to the finishing, when it comes to maturity. So at what point do we actually sit and say, you know what, like we can't, it's hard to isolate the numbers and the aesthetics when somebody is actually working hard and putting up these numbers, but we are looking beyond them because he's looking very industrious. He's not having that, he's not you doing those rainbow flicks once in a while, or he's not looking very aesthetic. Because for me, I would feel bad if like my player or somebody in my team is working their socks off, putting up what 50 60 goals and assists a season, but then is overlooked. Of course, Lamine Yamal, brilliant talent, is gonna, I mean, I can bet my house on it that he's gonna win a Ballon d'Or in the coming decade, like multiple Ballon d'Ors. But the seasons that everyone are having now, should we not give it on the basis of the seasons they've had, rather than a, the aesthetics, B, the numbers, and C, the potential that they could offer in the future? Should it not be just based on the season they've had, the numbers they've put up, how much they've been there for the team? Should these not be the primary conditions?
I agree, bro. Like, even see, technically, I feel like it's a bit of both. I feel like just because you have the numbers, it doesn't mean you are the best player in the world. But because, like, bro, see, it's simple. Like, you look previously, like, you had Messi, Ronaldo. In terms of numbers, also goals, you would always have them at the top. And then you see the guys behind him, you would have generally Lewandowski scoring more goals for in a Bundesliga. So you have to take that into consideration. I feel like Lewandowski would be scoring more goals. Generally, every year, you could see him always being there in the top three of the Golden Boot. A lot, like just a lot. And I feel like I remember even having this conversation with you 2 years ago when it was a debate between Haaland and Messi. I think Haaland had extremely good numbers overall, like league season, one of the highest. It was the Golden Boot, but it was like crazy numbers. They won the treble also.
They won the treble, yes.
But I remember we talking and saying, bro, but he's not the best player. Like, you look at the game, you know that Messi is just miles ahead of him, regardless of those numbers. And we
Hmm.
know we could literally sit here and tell, like, most of those goals was on a fact of De Bruyne putting on a plate. Like, I believe till now that treble winning season, De Bruyne was the best player for City, even though he didn't have those great. I mean, he had great numbers, but like whatever. I feel like the PR, whatever it is, because, bro, I remember that season it was Arsenal. We had a young team. We were top of the league, and those two games against City, I remember the away game. Bro,
Hmm.
I was scared for De Bruyne. Like every time De Bruyne got the ball, I was scared. With Haaland, even till now, it's the same game, and I was like, it's fine. We can like control Haaland if it comes down to it. But every time De Bruyne got the ball, I was scared. Like that season, every time I was scared because I knew what he is, and I've seen he did that every year. Throughout the season. I remember even the UCL game. Real Madrid were winning 1-0 that game. De Bruyne scores a screamer out of nowhere in Bernabeu. It became 1-0, and then they go on to win 4-0 in the second leg. But bro, De Bruyne was the best player that year, but it was not big based on stats, right? And you know it, like stats matter to an extent. But if you're looking at Barca today, who do you think is the best player? Just based on the if you're watching a match right now. Example, if you're looking at Inter versus Barca, the two legs. If I sit and ask you who was the best player there, both Rafinha and Yamal played. But if I ask you today who was the best player, who would you say? I personally think Yamal was the best player, like both those legs, and I can't take that out. Like,
Hmm. Yeah, bro. I mean, when you were mentioning how Kunde was like always seemed to help Yamal, I was just thinking like in the Champions League semi-final. I mean, in the Champions League games against Inter, like Kunde was not there. But even then, I remember
exactly.
Yamal putting DiMarco on toast. He was
Yeah.
absolutely getting mauled. Also, there were a couple of fouls he didn't get. took it by the byline, got it off the post. Sommer had to, I think, parry it onto the crossbar. He was causing all kinds of chaos. So yeah, of course, that his what he brings to the team, for me, what people, yeah, that's the thing. When you talk about the 2023 season of Haaland versus Yamal, like for me, it's not just the end product, it's what they bring to the team. Because I feel you take out Haaland, you place anyone in the 90 to 100 percentile of the strikers, I feel most of them would do almost as good as Haaland.
Bro,
But
I,
I
I,
feel,
I disagree. I disagree. You
again,
can't. I
you
feel
put an
like
Alexander Isak, okay, different
I
profile, but
actually
you put
disagree.
strikers, most like a lot of strikers, the kind of chances they get, it will be put away. But for at least this is for me, that you take out, say, Messi from a team, you take out, again, right now, Yamal from a team. I don't think the team performs the same way. You put Messi, you
Exactly.
take out Messi in that Netherlands game against Netherlands in the World Cup. Nobody else makes that through ball to who was it? The assist that he made, he put it
Molina,
past
Molina.
somebody's legs for the right back
He played it
for
through Ake to Molina.
for Molina. Yeah, and yeah, for me, those are bigger things. Like, of course, you have to be consistent, you have to have the numbers, but what you bring to the team, that's kind of why, I mean, it is unfair to Haaland. Like, at the end of the day, he's a striker. He's gonna have the fewest, probably the fewest touches in the game. It is gonna be unfair that, okay, we're gonna shoehorn him, we're gonna pigeonhole him, saying that, okay, this is just a striker, I mean, it is his role, we can't help it, you're getting a few touches, you're not aesthetic enough. Maybe if he were a winger, we'd be having a different conversation. But yeah, I know it is unfair, but that is just how, personally, for me, I tend to think about being the best player, that what you bring to the team, you take this person out, how much of an impact the team creates. For me, that's why earlier on the season, like when we were talking before also, I was saying that, okay, I wouldn't have a problem even if Pedri won the Ballon d'Or. For me,
Oh, bro.
he probably would be like top 2 or 3 midfielders in the world this season. Like, bro, like, he's
Sorry, bro.
just
I disagree
too
with
good.
that.
But
Bro, you
again,
watched the
yeah.
game last week's game against France. I think he was not great at all. Like overall, as a midfielder, he didn't play that well. I don't think he was the best
Mm,
midfielder in Spain itself. He
yeah,
didn't do
again,
much
yeah,
apart from the goal.
even
Like
in the
you look at the
previous,
game,
yeah. That's true.
bro.
That's true. But
When it comes to midfielders, yeah, I have a different opinion, and I think that's a different topic. But
mm,
anyways, like you were saying about Pedri, yeah.
yeah, so for me, yeah, I just feel like that is also a criteria, that if you were to take out somebody from the team and replace it with, say, 95 to 100 percentile of the bracket, how much of a change would it be? That's for me a very big deciding factor. And
But
probably
I,
that's,
but see, that's where I think even what you're talking about Haaland, I feel like City. Okay, it's a bit of a this thing, but when City played and De Bruyne was again that chance creation monster that time, he didn't have great strike. I mean, he had guys like Jesus there up front,
yeah,
and
they
they
won
had
the
like
league
Sterling
without
Son.
Haaland also before.
No, but that's the point. Like they were winning the league, sure, but the goals they were getting was not the same. Like I don't think those players
Yeah.
were there sitting and scoring the same goals. And I feel like out of all the strikers at that point of time in that season, 2022, 2023, uh, I don't think even if you had put an Isaac in that team would have done anything. I think that season he was outright the best striker in the world. I feel like that. I doing and he
Yeah,
was
nobody. No,
21.
no. See,
He
again,
was
I was never saying. Sorry to interrupt. I was never saying that he's not the best striker. I'm like, my
no,
case
but
was
my
that,
point
okay,
is like I
the
no no my
chances he
point is
put
like
away,
I feel
huh?
like no other striker would have been able to replicate what he did that season. Like
Hmm.
at that season, at that
Fair,
year,
fair.
like how they were playing, I don't think anyone could have done it the way they did it. Right? Like for me personally, I wouldn't. I can't see that season, especially as a striker. But bro, again, okay, I we think we have a good idea about who our favorites is. I think yours is what Rafinha you would say at the end of the day or Dembele.
Not see. Again, not Dembele. One of Rafinha or Yamal for me.
Yamal or Dembele?
No, no, Rafinha or
Rafinha.
Yamal.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, but
Yeah.
anyways, today there's a huge game,
Mhm.
France versus Spain, and again, you have a previous Ballon d'Or winner with Ronaldo, 5 Ballon d'Ors coming into this game. And to be fair, if we touch upon Portugal a bit, they did beat a good Germany side, even though they had a lot of players missing, like Rudiger, like Havertz, like Musiala. But they did win 2-1 away, technically, because they're playing in Germany itself.
Mm.
And they did dominate Germany. And if you look at that game, when I watched, like, Germany were good, decently good in the first half, but second half, Portugal dominated like the entire half. And that's where I feel like this game could put an edge whoever wins today. Because for me personally, if you're talking about overall season, good player, best, see, I think there are three criteria for Ballon d'Or this year. By the way, like as you, Apple United said, of course, aesthetics help. At the end of the day, the Golden Ball is considered by journalists. I mean, that's true, but yeah, I get it. Like the journalists are the ones who decided, but I think when you look at the games, like you can have an idea who has been the best player regardless of it. I think even the journalists will jot down to two, three players, and then they'll be, it will be based on that itself.
Mm.
And bro, yeah, again coming back to the season, I think overall, when we talk about PSG, also for me personally, if I just put a touch on it, and now even with Portugal, with what I saw, I really think João Neves is the best player for PSG and the
Mm.
best player for Portugal. Like against Germany, he played right back and he dominated that game. He was not like him being a midfielder going to the right back. He played brilliant, bro. It's not like he couldn't play brilliant. And that's why whenever people talk about Pedri, that's the difference, bro. Like I think the reason why Pedri has that name of the best player, as Apples United said, it's because of aesthetic, because he looks unique in the way he plays. But bro, for me this season, I watched him play against Arsenal thrice. Like I watched him play against City. I watched him play against. I saw the finals against Inter Milan. I think he was their best player. Like no matter what people say, for me he was the best player that day. He can dominate on the ball. He can dominate off the ball. Bro, he's so small. He's literally so small. But bro, he's packed with power. I really think overall, if he comes down to the debate of there are some three criteria. If you can pull it up, I'm sorry, I don't remember them. One of them it's like trophies. One of them is like performance in the entire season, and the way you behave, and your personality as a
Mm.
player. I
The
think these
conduct.
three matter a lot. If I'm not wrong, this season, I don't know
Yeah.
how much it will be considered, but bro, if Portugal are able to win today, if if Portugal can win, and if Neves plays well today, me personally, I wouldn't mind Joao Neves winning the Ballon d'Or because of the fact that, bro, for me he is the game changer for PSG from last year to this year. It is not only because of it's not only because of the way he played throughout the season, but it's also about the way he carries himself, bro. Like it's always like 100% everywhere. Like I've never seen a player like you can say some like we would talk about Kante like that before, but this guy's good both on the ball. Like I think he's their best midfielder in terms of passing, in terms of chance creation, the way he carries the ball. And bro, like I watched him against Arsenal thrice, and I feel like overall he was the best midfielder all three games. Like hands down, he was the best midfielder. Like he was so good. I think that was a huge reason why PSG could like sustain pressure against Arsenal was because of him. Like for me personally, and that's the sad part. I feel like it's come down to PR, Ballon d'Or, and that's why guys like Pedri, like it's like, bro, it's like if Real Madrid win that year or do well that year, it'll be someone like Toni Kroos in the midfield,
Mm.
Modric in the midfield, and then there are two attackers, maybe one defender. They'll get the plaudits. If it is Barca who win that year, either the La Liga or they dominate that year, it will be one of their attackers. Mind you, I'm telling you, their attackers have had a great, insane season. But then I look at Pedri, I look at other midfielders. Bro, I don't think Pedri can do what Joao Neves does, the role he plays. Like he does
Mm.
it both attacking and defensively. And I think if Joao Neves goes to any team in the world, I don't think he's going to struggle. I think if he's playing even in the Premier League, I don't think he's going to struggle at all. Like he performed well against the big teams, even in the Premier League. But I feel like Pedri would struggle in a different environment. Like if you put Pedri in another team, I don't think he's going to like shine as much as he does. And
Mm.
bro, for me, like if Portugal, like if you're talking about today's game, like Portugal, Spain. If Spain win, yeah, I feel like you can tell a bit. Okay, yeah, sure. But if Portugal win, I would push me personally, especially after what we saw last year. I think that Ballon d'Or it went to Rodri, who I don't think was the best player in the world that day, like that year, regardless of who won it. And coming to this year, bro, like he's won the quadruple, like Joao Neves, and he's gone to the finals, and if he wins, I think I would rather have someone like John Evans to win it, because I genuinely think he's been the game changer overall.
See, what you rightfully mentioned was the whole campaign that builds throughout the season and towards the end of the season. Like you rightfully mentioned, he has won everything there is to win for PSG and the season. And if he goes on to win the UEFA Nations League, also that's pretty much everything he could win the season. But how strong is has his campaign been? Like, how
So
does
it's been
on
crazy
like
good for me. Even
for Joao
okay, so for
Neves?
example, the first game when we lost 2-0, I mean, when Arsenal beat 2-0, like that's when I started watching him really. Bro, even that game, like I'll tell you, like none of the PSG players played well, like overall that game.
I'm not
But the
talking about
only
performance.
player who,
I'm talking about the campaign that has gone on for him. Like as you
bro, it's
compare
been great.
with
That's my point. I feel like
Rafinha
he's
or a
been
Dembele.
but he's been great since day one. Like I look at PSG, he's been the best player even on the bad days. He's been their
Hmm.
most consistent player, and bro, even that game, like he dominated the midfield for what PSG could do. Like he was winning balls, he was winning everything in the midfield. Like not everything, but he was winning a lot of duels. And like he was, bro, he plays like on the ball. He is very efficient. He's very good. It's not like he's just a guy who's running around the pitch. He's a beautiful. He has a beautiful weight on the pass. He has range of passing, bro. For me, I really wanted him to come to Arsenal last year, like as just like through what I've seen him,
Hmm.
and I think he has been the real change for like even PSG. I think without John Neves, they're not going to play the way they play today, like for sure. And he's performing well for Portugal also, which that's the thing. Like the fact is, you have to go throughout the season, and you look at Yamal, he didn't have a great like throughout the season. If you look at it, it's not been like he's been performing well fully thoroughly, because I remember Barca had a very bad patch in middle of November ish, if I'm not wrong. They
Hmm.
went like 4 5 games without a win,
Yeah.
etc. And also, I remember Dembele was not the guy he was in the second half of the season. He had a lot of struggles in the beginning of the year. He got dropped also, like by Luis Enriquez because of whatever. Like like this year there is
Disciplinary
personality,
issues.
character as a person. Yeah, like he had his issues. He had a great second half, but yeah. And yeah, Rafinha, I would say, is the only guy who's been performing consistently throughout the season. But for me, like again, bro, like for me, I if it was personally, and if it comes down to today, I would rather push Rafi. Like for example, I'm saying if someone like Portugal win today and Joao Neves performs, I would happily like push like him for the winner of Ballon d'Or, because I truly deserves it.
Hmm. Speed. Why you guys didn't come live after RCB win in the final? What to do, bro? These guys were busy celebrating their win after 18 long years. They got caught up in the celebrations. But yeah, I think sometime we will do an IPL review that is pending. We have to
Yeah, yeah,
discuss the RCB triumph, the eventual triumph,
yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah, bro. Like, yeah. I mean, with that, I think like for we wanted to come live, but like incidents happen, so we just don't want to cover it right now. I think
yeah.
that's why we didn't come live. Speed.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep. And so yeah, that's pretty much what we
yeah,
think
bro.
about the Ballon d'Or race has been all about this season and who potentially could be lifting the coveted UEFA Nations League.
Who
Uh,
do you think will win
Cup.
tonight, Rishi?
I
Spain or
think Spain.
Portugal?
I think Spain
Spain,
goes
no?
through. Yeah,
Interesting. But if
yeah.
Portugal win, then do you think Yamal still deserves it, or like should push
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah. That's what I was saying. No, I don't think UEFA Nations League, at least as of yet, should decide who the Ballon d'Or is going to. For me,
Mhm.
I'm not convinced at least of yet. Maybe in some time, if the narrative changes, if there has been a little bit more importance given, then different. But for now, at least, it remains the same.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. That's from us for today. Let us know who youth guys think should win the Ballon d'Or and is going to win tonight's UEFA Nations League finals. We'll be back soon. That's it, guys. Nice talking to you. Catch you guys soon. Thanks,
Yeah.
Ali.
Thank you guys. Like, share, and subscribe, guys. Bye.